Hey, real quick before the story starts, if you like lit reading, I've got something new you might enjoy. It's called New Tales Told, original short stories. Same voice, same vibe. Just search for New Tales Told right here in this podcast app. And just so you're not surprised, there may be some ads before the story. Sorry, we have to pay the bills. Hi, I'm Don McDonald. In 1864, a 19-year-old civilian telegraph operator receives two authenticated messages from the same general. One says advance, the other says don't. There's an ambush waiting. He does exactly what he's supposed to do. He flags the conflict, queries command, gets a clear answer, and relays the confirmed order. Here is the telegram that shouldn't exist, by me. The sounder woke him at 4:11 in the morning, which was not unusual. What was unusual was that it kept going. Elias Murrow sat up in his cot, boots already on because he'd stopped taking them off in May, and crossed the 3 steps to the operating table. The tent smelled of battery acid and damp wool and the particular sourness of a man who had not properly bathed in 6 weeks. He lit the lamp, trimmed the wick out of habit, sat down. His fingers were already tapping the edge of the table before the rest of him was fully awake, the way they always did, restless and precise, as though his hands lived a few seconds ahead of his mind. The message came through clean. Full authentication cipher, routed from General Harker's headquarters at Culpeper, priority designation. Murrow copied it in his careful hand, the pencil moving just behind the clicks the way a good operator's pencil always does, never rushing the sounder, never falling behind. 2. Colonel Blanchard, 4th Division. From General Harker, commanding. Advance full strength at dawn along the Pike Road. Engage enemy position at ridgeline. Artillery support to follow. Confirm receipt. He logged it. Time received, routing codes, cipher series. Prepared the relay, standard work. And Murrow was good at standard work. He had been with the Military Telegraph Corps for 11 months and had never once been disciplined for a missed character or a misrouted dispatch. He was 19 years old and intended to be 20. The second message arrived 14 minutes later. Same authentication, same cipher series, same origination code down to the operator's fist, which Murrow recognized because he'd been receiving Harker's traffic for 3 months and knew the rhythm of the headquarters telegrapher the way you know a man's walk. 2. Colonel Blanchard, 4th Division. From General Harker, commanding. Do not advance. Repeat, do not advance. Enemy strength concealed south of ridgeline. Ambush probable. Hold position. Await further orders. Confirm receipt. Murrow read it twice. Then he read the first message again. He placed them side by side on the table in the yellow circle of the lamp and looked at them the way a man looks at 2 letters from the same woman that say different things. He did not panic. He did not guess. He did what the regulations required, which was the only thing Elias Murrow ever did. The priority query went out at 4:31. He addressed it to Harker's headquarters, flagged it urgent, cited both message timestamps, noted the contradiction. The language was precise and bloodless, because that is how you write when lives may depend on the reply. Conflicting orders received 0411 and 0425. Message 1, advance at dawn. Message 2, hold position, ambush warning. Both carry valid auth and cipher. Request immediate clarification. Murrow, OPR, Station 7. Then he waited. The lines were heavy with traffic, the whole network buzzing before a dawn action, and he could hear fragments of other stations bleeding through, clipped and hurried. He sat with his hands flat on the table, one on each message, as though he could feel the truth through the paper. They were very still, his hands. He noticed that. They were never still. 11 minutes. In a war fought with rifled muskets and Napoleonic tactics, 11 minutes is nothing. In a tent with 2 contradictory orders and a battle approaching, it is very long. The reply came at 4:42. 2. Murrow Station 7. Originating order stands. Advance at dawn per message 0411. Second message is duplicate error or possible interception. Disregard. Harker commanding. Murrow read it once. The explanation was reasonable. Duplicate transmissions happened. Confederate operators had been known to tap the lines and inject false traffic. Poorly authenticated garbage meant to sow confusion. This was a known threat. It appeared in the manual. He relayed the confirmed order to Colonel Blanchard's field station at 4:44. He logged the relay. He logged the clarification. He filed the second message, the contradictory one, in the anomaly ledger as regulations required. Then he made coffee, because there was nothing else to do, and because the water was already hot from the battery array, and because a man who has done his job correctly is entitled to coffee. The 4th Division advanced at dawn along the Pike Road toward the ridgeline as ordered. Murrow heard it again. Not the battle itself, which was 3 miles east and muffled by the hills, but the traffic. Frantic, overlapping, operators abandoning proper procedure to get words through. He caught pieces. Heavy fire south of Ridge. A pause. Flanking actions concealed battery. Another pause, longer. Request immediate reinforcement. Then a silence that lasted 9 minutes, which on a telegraph line during an engagement means something has gone very wrong. The casualty reports filtered in through the morning. The 4th had walked into prepared positions, concealed infantry south of the ridgeline exactly where the second message said they would be. The artillery had been masked, the flanking force hidden in a creek bed. It was not a battle so much as a demonstration of what happens when one side knows what the other will do. Colonel Blanchard survived. Many of his men did not. The investigation was routine. A board of 3 officers reviewed the telegraph logs as they always did after an engagement with unexpected losses. Murrow's paperwork was immaculate. His query logged. The command response logged. The relay logged. The anomaly report filed. They concluded that the second message was almost certainly a Confederate interception, albeit an unusually sophisticated one. The senior officer wrote in his summary that the incident demonstrated the soundness of existing verification protocols under field conditions. He underlined the word soundness. Murrow went back through the logs on a Tuesday, alone, in the late afternoon, for no particular reason. Or rather, for a reason he could not have named. A low unease that had settled under his ribs like a stone he'd swallowed and could not digest. He pulled both messages, laid them on the table again in the same positions, left and right. He read them. He'd already memorized them, of course. You don't forget traffic like this. But he read them again anyway, running his finger under each line because Elias Murrow was the kind of man who trusted the procedure even when the procedure had already been completed. The first message, the advance order, carried standard routing. Culpeper Headquarters to Regional Relay to Station 7. Clean chain. No anomalies. The second message, the warning, the one command had dismissed, carried routing codes that began with his own station designator. He blinked at that, leaned closer to the page. The lamp was guttering slightly, and he trimmed it again, and looked again, because the obvious explanation was that he'd misread the header in poor light. He had not misread it. He pulled the routing format reference from the shelf above the operating table, a mimeograph sheet he'd consulted perhaps twice in 11 months. He ran his finger down the column of station codes. Station 7 Rappahannock Relay. His station. The designator matched character for character. Not similar. Not adjacent in the code table. Identical. He checked the first message again for comparison. Its routing chain was clean. Culpeper Headquarters to Regional Relay to Station 7. 3 nodes, standard handoff. The warning message showed only 1 node. Origin and destination the same. A relay error, then. A loop in the line. some mechanical fault that echoed a message back to its source with a corrupted header. These things happened. He had read about them in the core technical bulletins, though he could not, sitting there, recall a specific instance. But a relay error would duplicate an existing message. It would not generate new content. It would not compose 6 lines of original text warning of an ambush that had not yet occurred. He checked the timestamp. The warning had been transmitted at 4:37, 6 minutes after he'd sent his priority query, 8 minutes before the command response arrived. During the window when he'd been sitting with his hands flat on the table waiting, one palm on each message, listening to the lines chatter. He sat very still and tried to remember those 11 minutes. He could recall the sound of the traffic on the wire, the smell of the lamp, the pressure of his palms against the table. He could not recall his hands moving to the key. But he could not recall them not moving either, because a man does not typically inventory his own stillness. Either someone had entered his tent, set at his key, sent an authenticated message in a cipher they should not have known, and left without waking him, or he had sent it himself without knowing, without deciding, the way his fingers tapped the table before the rest of him was awake. The message he'd flagged as suspicious had originated from the equipment in front of him, during a period when he was the only operator on duty, at a time when his hands were, as far as he could remember and as far as the log reflected, idle. Murrow closed the ledger. He sat for a moment, very still, in the way that men sit when the ground has shifted beneath them but the chair has not moved. Outside, someone was chopping wood. The sound was steady and ordinary and had nothing to do with him. He opened the ledger again. He turned to the anomaly log, to the entry he'd filed that morning, the one the board had reviewed and commended. He read his own handwriting. Second message received 0425. Authentication valid. Content contradicts primary order. Flagged for command review per Reg 14, Section 3. He'd written received, not transmitted, because he had received it, hadn't he? The sounder had clicked and his pencil had moved and the message had appeared on the page in his careful hand, and that was receiving. But the routing code said otherwise. The routing code said the message had entered his wire from Station 7, gone out to the network, and come back. A signal that left his key, traveled the line, and returned to his sounder as though it were incoming traffic, as though his own station had spoken to itself in a voice he recognized but could not claim. He closed the ledger a second time. He did not open it again. That evening, Murrow ate salt pork and hardtack with the rest of the station detail. He did not speak of what he'd found. There was nothing to speak of. A routing anomaly, a timestamp that didn't quite fit, the kind of thing that happens in a system built from copper wire and battery acid and men who haven't slept. In the morning, he was at the table before the first traffic came through. He trimmed the lamp. He sharpened his pencil. The sounder began to click, and Murrow copied the message in his careful hand, and when it was done, he logged it and relayed it. Then he pulled the outgoing log and checked the routing code on his own relay. It was clean. Station 7, outgoing, standard chain. His relay, and nothing more. He felt something ease in his chest. And then, immediately after, something else, which was the understanding that he would do this again, tomorrow, and the day after. Every message, every relay for the rest of the war. He would send, and then he would check. He would watch the routing code the way a man watches a door he is no longer sure he locked. The pencil would still move just behind the clicks. He was too good an operator for it not to. But some part of him would be standing outside the work now, watching his own hands, and he understood, in the quiet way a man understands something he will never say aloud, that this was permanent. Whatever he had done before, the kind of operator who could sit down and disappear into the signal, that was over. The instrument was no longer invisible to him. He could hear the mechanism now, his own place inside it, and he would never not hear it again. The sounder clicked. Murrow copied the message. He logged it. He relayed it. He checked the routing code, looking for his own station where it should not be. During the Civil War, the U.S. Military Telegraph Corps wasn't military at all. It was staffed by civilian operators, some of them teenagers, sitting in canvas tents along the front lines, relaying orders that moved entire divisions. They were trained to copy, log, and never question. The system worked, until it didn't. The telegram that shouldn't exist is the story of an operator who does everything right, follows every regulation, and still ends up holding a message that could not have come from where the routing code says it came from. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoy short fiction, we've got tons of it at shortstoryverses.com. Check it all out. All kinds of stuff from classics to originals and various themes. And if you like what you hear, please leave a 5-star review or rating at Apple Podcasts or Spotify and tell others about the podcast. Thanks so much for listening. I'm Don McDonald. Thanks for listening all the way to the end. You're officially a story finisher, and I appreciate that more than you know. If you're curious what else I'm up to, check out one of my other podcasts, New Tales Told. It's brand new, original short fiction written and narrated by me. Just search New Tales Told in this app. And thanks so much for listening to Lit Reading, now part of the Short Story Verses channel at shortstoryverses.com.